Hello, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains episode 591. The pre-show, this is for Monday, May 15th, 2017. You got James and you got Brian, and we've got fancy lower thirds for those that, well, you have to be, if the pre-show is only on YouTube, so you have to be watching. So there. Fancy lower thirds.
Which disappeared for a while.
Yeah, Google made some changes to the Hangout platform, I think, today. But the little toolbox is back, which enables us to do that. So now you know who we are. We're kind of a big deal. We have lower thirds. This is the time of the show where we share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and occasionally we say outrageous things. How was the Buck Creek Festival, Brian?
It was superb. The forecast hurt us more than anything else. The weather was fine. We got a few sprinkles on Saturday, but Friday the crowd was down because it rained other places and the forecast was for rain. So that held people off, but we still had great entertainment. Nice crowd, not a huge crowd, but that's all right. We're sorry you couldn't come down. I think that's the first one in like 12 years.
Yeah, that was a interesting day. We had a warning at like 11:30 or something like that, 11:45, a severe thunderstorm warning, and it just kind of, we almost had, I mean, I guarantee you somebody had some flooding. We had the radar suggested 4 inches of rain north of here. But yeah, we came through it unscathed. So we got to get Mike from RadarScope on here, huh? This is going to be fun.
You know, I've never been scathed. I wonder what it's like to be scathed.
I don't know. Well, one day we'll find out.
I've been unscathed, but I've never been scathed.
About to say, at our age, we probably have been scathed. We just don't know what it is. So
you're probably right.
Yeah, there you go. We've been through everything. Got Rick on the line.
I'd be careful about saying that because just as soon as you say that, something completely unexpected and unusual will arise.
Yes. So I'm going to try and throw up some rate. This is going to be a hard episode because most people listen, so you can't rely on the video too much here. But
I was reading about the new features in RadarScope. They have some good stuff on their website.
Yeah. I need to I need to dig into that, but we'll ask Mike about it.
And great minds think alike, because your pick of the week is my 101 segment.
Woo! Well, there you go.
Well, I just did. Your pick is all the changes. My 101 segment is just about the storm surge warnings and watches.
Okay. So let's stop this and let's see if I can find Mike.
And he's got James.
Yes.
The fellow from Pittsburgh who visited you Friday.
Yes.
He visited me at the Buck Creek Festival.
Really?
Yes. I was shocked. He went to a lot of trouble. I mean, you're a really big deal, but I'm really not a big deal. And he went to a lot of trouble.
And you are the internationally beloved meteorologist.
Yes, right. If it weren't for Tarmo, I wouldn't know anybody outside of the United States. And I don't really know him exactly. Although one of these days, maybe I'll get on a flight and go over and visit him.
So WOLFINBARGER.
You got it.
Let's click on this one and see if it's him. There's got to be just one. Surely there's only one. If his name was Mike Smith, we'd be in trouble, like Rick Smith. I type in OUNWCM and I can get him every time.
Yeah. Rick's a big deal too.
Yeah.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
I like your pick of the week, by the way.
Boy, I was surfing around on Twitter and saw that, and I thought it was an old link I'd already maybe used, but when I looked at it this evening, I was like, man, that's like 15 picks of the week. There's a lot there. That's
Yes.
So
I've already
bonanza.
Yeah.
Busting through a few of them here and there.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get to see all of them, but I mean, because some of them are pretty long. But
yeah, the good stuff though. That's really a great resource. And Patrick Marsh said there's even more coming, so they're going to keep adding to the library. So
all right. So we can.
And there's a whole segment, a whole
over.
10-minute segment on the. Yeah. There's a whole 10-minute. I think it's a 10-minute video on the significant tornado parameter. So.
All right.
I thought of James. So.
I'm going to send Mike an email with the link. But I think that might be the easiest way to get people on here. So we'll see if that works. And what else have I not done here? I guarantee. Let me see if the soundboard is. When? Did y'all hear that?
Yeah.
When the weather. Yes.
Is it 9:30 already?
Ah!
Yeah, that's right.
I must have dozed off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I heard
Well, that
one.
sky was pretty today, you know.
We interrupted.
Oh, we don't have any of that breaking news. Kevin's not here.
Let's get social with social media.
Wow, that's horrible. Oh,
Social media or the song?
both.
From WeatherBrains Worldwide International Headquarters.
I got so much good stuff in here. That's the thing.
We
You
could
just kind
have a
of
show just with the good stuff.
we could just do a soundboard show.
I just saw an article about the most damaging, the most climate damaging foods.
Oh boy, hang on.
My head's gonna explode. My head may explode before yours, James.
The science is in.
Science. Well, I've sent Mike an email with the link, and I don't know what else to do. Google has made some changes. I can tell it's acting a little differently here, so there's no telling. But typically, if you send them the link, then they can access the Hangout that way.
Well, let's hope he does.
Yeah.
Just the interface looks different. The lower thirds are different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, this toolbox went away for a while. This thing that makes the lower thirds, it was just gone for like 2 months, and all of a sudden it resurfaced here this week. And it says presets, work in progress. This section is not ready.
There he is.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen,
He got here. We can have a show after all.
we can make this thing fly now. Mike, I appreciate you doing this. You're a good man.
Oh, glad to be here. Thanks for having me back.
It is an honor, sir. Hey, give me a mic check real quick.
Check.
Like-
1, 2, 3. How's that?
Your audio's a tad low. Can you crank it up by any chance,
Let me see
Mike?
what I can do here.
Because you're the man here. We want your audio to be loud and booming and dominant. And welcome to our television viewers. Welcome to those watching on television.
Check 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, give me a count to 10. And for those watching on television, this is the pre-show. As you can tell, we'll start the show in a minute. This is WeatherBrains. We're about to hit here in just a minute. Yeah, Mike, give me a count to 10. Yeah, just count to 10. I don't think Mike can hear us now.
That does appear to be.
Don't forget that the higher the IQ of our guests, the more challenging it is to get them on this show for some reason. It's
Can you hear us, Mike? Thumbs up? Nope.
Hello, Mike.
Oh,
Annie hung up on us.
Hello,
just-
can
I
you
just
guys
not-
hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yay!
I just noticed on this new toolbox, it actually has a volume control now, an audio control. So I take that back. I can boost the audio. I've never seen that before. This is all new. It
is
says,
the audio good? Okay.
Hangout Toolbox provides useful applications. Hangout Toolbox is not affiliated with, sponsored by, or endorsed by Google. Okay. Wow.
How did we get it on there?
It says it's created by a guy named Mortiz Talksdorf. Wow. Well,
Sure.
hey, Mike, try it now.
All right, check 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me any better now?
Yeah, keep talking. Can you hear us okay? And if you can't, count
Yeah,
to 10.
I hear you great. 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, that should work. I've actually got the little volume control where I can boost your audio now, so I think we're good. So let's start this thing. Let me get the recorders going here. Recorder 1, recorder 2, and here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is WeatherBrains episode number 591. We're almost to 600. Wow. This is for May 15th, 2017. Getting into the core of the tornado season for many people. So thanks a lot for taking the time to watch and or listen this evening. Rick Smith is the warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma. And Rick, looks like you got some storms in the the Oklahoma Panhandle. That's not quite your jurisdiction, is it?
Just on the edge. I think tomorrow night will be a different story. I think we'll be deep in the thick of things by this time Tuesday evening, and again Thursday evening. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, they're getting some big hailstorms out in the panhandles this evening.
And we're going to be talking about RadarScope, a piece of software. And since we're talking about that, I'll go ahead and do a screen share. And this is going to be kind of a challenging show because we know that most people listen, and we try not to refer to a video because we know a lot of people simply are not able to see it. But I'm showing a radar image of some storms out in the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma. Kevin Selly, you're close to those storms.
Yes, I am. I got somebody practicing behind me, so I'll have to be a little quiet.
Well, doesn't he know it's WeatherBrains time? What's the matter with this guy? I mean, this is
What's
your
he
show, not
practicing
his.
anyway?
We're practicing too. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's what we're practicing. Yeah.
Ooh.
One of these days-
591 shows, and we haven't got it right yet.
Right. Exactly.
Never will. Aubrey Urbanowitz is far from these storms in lovely Harrisonburg, Virginia. What a great place to be.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful day. We were 77 over 26 today.
Ooh.
Wow.
26
Nice.
dew point makes me happy.
Not a cloud in the sky. So absolutely gorgeous.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, thanks for being here. How's life up there? Any big news for us? Any breaking news?
I don't think so. Unfortunately, we have a meteorologist leaving. So we'll be on the search for one soon. And otherwise,
Me, pick me.
Kevin, I told you, come on back. We'd love to have you. Love to have you.
So what is the talent pool like? I'm fairly blessed here in that I maybe have an opening once every 6 years. What's the talent pool like? Is it what are you seeing?
I've only seen one tape. Our news director said he would give me the tapes as soon as he's kind of narrowed it down within I think by the end of this week. So I've only seen one. Guy had good experience, and I really liked his reel and stuff. So even for he was a newer meteorologist, but he was definitely very, very solid. So otherwise, I'm sure it's kind of the time of year when everyone's getting out of school. So he said he was getting a fair amount of applicants, and he was happy so far with what he's received. So
cool. Now, what requirements do you have for that opening? Do you have to have a CBM, any number of years of experience? What do you have in the job listing for that?
we don't require a seal necessarily, but if you aspire to get one, they'll kind of help. They could possibly help pave the way for that, or something you might ask for in your contract. we would like someone, especially for this position, with at least a little bit of experience, because it is the Monday through Friday position, and it's also kind of filling in. Max experience is definitely a big plus, and I would really like to look for someone with a little bit more of some Max experience and a little bit more computer experience than I have, because I would like to kind of split a lot of those duties with someone who maybe had much more knowledge than I do, which a lot of the younger incoming meteorologists do. So that would be a huge plus. If you knew a little bit more about GRE and GIS, that'd be, or whoever, male or female, that would be great too. So definitely someone with a little bit of experience at least.
And they have to be a WeatherBrains listener. If they're not, they're not going to be hired. There you go.
No, they have to know their audience. So
yeah, exactly. So Brian Peters is the internationally beloved meteorologist. Brian, what's on your mind tonight?
Just recovering from a big weekend with our little local festival, which I'm a big part of.
Now, is this the one where you drink beer all weekend out there?
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, I knew it. Yes.
Is this the one where they praise you and carry you on their shoulders?
No, I didn't get carried on anybody's shoulders. But I did experience the fact that the weather didn't hurt us, but the forecast did hurt us. Because the forecast was for rain, so people stayed away. But it never rained at our festival Friday evening. So, but there was rain nearby, and you know what it is. You know how people are. If it's raining where you are, it's raining everywhere. So,
yep. And
attendance was a little down Friday night, but that's all right. We still had a great time.
Yeah, that's always hard when you're in our position doing weather and you've got a big outdoor event or some big community event, and it's always a delicate balance of trying to be positive and keep the crowds going, and yet at the same time kind of give it a straight shot. But the day before, you don't know where the showers and storms really are going to be. They're kind of random this time of the year, and we had some people that had 4 inches of rain and some people had nothing that night. So, but it is what it is. Now, did you have any mosquito problems out there, Brian?
No, we didn't really have any mosquito problems, and it turned great on Saturday. We had a couple of little showers, and overnight there was just enough rain to dampen the dust in the park, so that was nice. So all in all, It was, I think, a very successful event, and we're already on the countdown for next year, 361 days.
All right, there you go. Well, let's bring in Mike Wolfenbarger. Mike, we're going to talk about RadarScope, your baby. Thanks for coming on the show.
That's a surprise to Mike.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Or we could talk about something else if you want to. I mean, it's it's up to you.
Well, that's all right. Always happy to talk about RadarScope.
So Mike, for those that don't know, let's go back to the very beginning of this piece of software. I'd say that the two, big pieces of software that people use, really, those professionals and amateurs and weather enthusiasts, it's either, Gibson Ridge or RadarScope. And obviously, we'll talk about RadarScope. We'll see if we can get Mike Gibson back on the show sometime soon. But let's go way back. You were involved in RadarScope way before Weather Decision Technologies, right?
And Mike, your audio is a little low. I'm dying to hear this.
Okay.
So,
well, I don't know. I'm not sure if I've got a way to adjust it. I'm on my laptop. So.
What you can do is talk really loud,
or maybe just lean in a hair, because I'm interested to hear all this.
If it's too loud, let me know.
Stick your nose right on the screen, and that's probably about.
No, you're good. That last audio is good, Mike.
Okay.
And there's your show title too, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We. So, I mean, the prehistory of RadarScope dates back to my days and my partners at the Oklahoma Climate Survey. We developed software for emergency managers to look at NextRed data back in the days when there wasn't good software to do that, when NextRed data was hard to come by. We were able to use that as kind of the beginnings of RadarScope. And so when the iPhone platform was opened up to app development, we were able to take the software we developed on Mac and Windows platforms and get it to run on the iPhone. And that was back in 2008, and we've been making it better a little at a time ever since. Expanded to the Mac platform in 2011, I think.
Yay!
And also to Android in 2011. So we've been going strong ever since.
So when did WDT come in and kind of buy you guys out or bring you in, or however that worked?
Yeah, well, our relationship with them actually goes back to the year 2000 when they started up. WDT licensed some technologies out of the Center for the Analysis and Prediction of Storms at OU and from the Oklahoma Climate Survey where I worked. And of course, the founders of WDT came out of the National Severe Storms Lab. So we had a relationship with them and knew those guys. They were just across the street from us. When RadarScope really looked like it was going to catch on and be a bigger product than we realized when we started, we felt like we needed to put some industrial grade servers behind it, something different than the servers that people usually use to get level 3 products. So they actually started providing data for RadarScope before we joined WDT, and they did that for about 2.5, 3 years before we joined the company. Somewhere along the way, around 2011, 2012, WDT launched their weather radio product, and they wanted to bring in a mobile team that could do some things with that they hadn't been able to do. And RadarScope was growing to the point where we really needed a home for it. So it just worked out pretty well for us to come and join WDT. We moved our offices across the street, and we're able to work on it, spend a lot more than just nights and weekends on RadarScope. So that's been nice.
So, Mike, is your background software or meteorology or both?
Well, I went to school here at OU in Norman with a degree in electrical engineering. Never did any real electrical engineering in the proper sense. My focus has always been on software. So I'm a software developer by education and trade, and became involved with weather through the Oklahoma Mesonet in the early days when they needed some software to display their data. Meteorology is, I tell everybody that meteorology is a great place to practice software development, because there's just nothing you would want to do with a computer or be able to do with a computer that's fun and interesting to do that you can't find a use for in this field. So.
Yeah, so you just kind of by default had to become a weather weenie then. I mean, you're all in.
To a point. I had a combination of working where I work and growing up here in Oklahoma. So.
All right. So now let's go back to the beginning of RadarScope. Did you have any idea when you first wrote that software package that one day it would be this first in class piece of software for phones everywhere?
Well, it's certainly more successful than we originally anticipated it would be. Our original idea for the software, really, and I think a lot of good products start by people building something they want to use. And that's really what we did. We built something that we wanted to use ourselves, that we thought was a perfect match for the iPhone, and that we thought our emergency management constituents in Oklahoma could use. We did realize that we had something that would be useful to a lot of people outside the borders of Oklahoma and beyond that focus that we had at OU. So we approached the technology development folks at OU about how can we make this available to a wider audience. Long story short, the right path to do that ended up being starting a company and licensing that software from the university. And so we did that. And it's certainly been bigger than we thought. When we were having those initial discussions with OU, the director of that office over there asked me how many copies I planned to sell, and I didn't have any idea. So I told him I thought it would be about 1,000 copies, and I think we sold 1,000 copies in the first month. So certainly been bigger than we expected. We're always excited to see people using it, and thrilled that it's had some impact on the business.
So how many copies have you sold today, or can you divulge that number? Is that, well, you have to break our legs if you tell us.
Well, we're up to several 100,000 now, and I haven't checked those numbers in a few weeks. So.
Now, is that across all platforms, Android, iOS, and Mac?
The majority on iOS, Android's second, and the Mac is just third, I guess.
Do you remember what year was your the biggest growth?
The actual sales of the app itself, I believe, I'd have to look and see if last year was actually bigger, but I believe the app sales, as far as just paying to install the app on any device, peaked around 2012. And so that's when we started. And we knew when we started it that if this is going to be more than just an app that people use, if it's going to be a going concern, we needed to have some way to continue revenue and continue to make money to support the app beyond pay $10 once and use it forever. So that's when our RadarScope Pro subscription tier came in, and we launched that in 2014. And so that's an optional package for $10 a year that gives you lightning data and a longer animation loop. You can do up to 20 frames with our super res products. It adds the dual pane mode and some of those things. And so what that product does is it lets a subset of customers that find the product useful enough and find those features useful enough that they want to pay a subscription fee every year to keep using it. That's what really helps drive RadarScope advancement going forward. For about the last 2 years now, for about the last year and a half, we actually make more money from the subscriptions than we do from the app sales. Although we still
and for those that are watching, what you're seeing on the screen is RadarScope for Mac. So I just wanted to kind of be sure people know what they're seeing here. And I just assume, I have a bad habit of that, but I assume everybody listening or watching, they know what this piece of software is. But obviously, it's radar software. If you heard Mike talking about this.
Mediogram.
Hello. What is Kevin doing over there? He's talking about the Mediogram. What was he saying there? I muted you, Kevin. Unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. I thought it was muted. I apologize. We're discussing stuff here. Sorry.
Okay. I hear you.
I'll just go away now.
Well, no, don't go away because you're the accelerant. But anyway, we're looking at storms now out in the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma. But let's talk about the subscription model. And when it comes to software in general, Mike, you're right. It's hard making money. People think that these software developers just get rich with these apps on the App Store, and they really don't. It is hard to make a living with software these days, right?
It is a challenge, and there are certain aspects of the App Store model and selling apps on mobile phones that make it even more of a challenge. We priced RadarScope originally at $10, somewhat arbitrarily, not really knowing what to expect or what the right way to go was. And it ended up being a great model for us for a few years, and it's still a good model. And I still don't think I'd change that part of it. But obviously, at some point, we have loyal customers and dedicated users of the app that first purchased the app in 2008. So 9 years ago almost now, 9 years ago in a couple of months. And they're still using the app, and we think that's great. But if you look at that $10 purchase price, well, Apple or Google get $3 of that, so then we're left with $7 because they take their commission off the top. And then, of course, you've got fees to run the servers and things because, again, we didn't feel like the NOAA servers provided data with low enough latency and high enough reliability to really make it a tool that you could rely on in a severe weather situation. And I don't need to say that for all of their products, but for their level 3 products in particular, we felt like we wanted to host our own. So that has a recurring cost now. And then things like lightning data, we pay licensing fees for lightning strike data because that's not something the government runs. Those are privately run networks. We have added expenses on our end to license the software from NOAA that we use to generate things like the super res products. And we've got a team of support people that are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, answering emails and helping customers that have problems and things like that. So yes, long story short, you need some kind of a revenue stream other than a one-time purchase. And the subscription model we feel like is a good way to do that because we're not asking people to buy a new version of the app every so many years and then have to find that. And that's really the only other way to charge money again on the App Store is either a one-time in-app purchase or a subscription. And we just felt like this was a pretty good model to use as long as we can provide value-added data and products to folks that are continuing to use the app. So it's been a good model. If we were getting rich off of it, I'd already be retired, and I'm not. So if I ever turn down the invitation to join you guys on WeatherBrains, you'll know that we found the right formula for that. But I don't think that's likely to happen anytime soon.
What you need is one of those big government retirement checks like Brian gets, and then
right.
But, the goal of it was to provide a piece of software that professionals could use and that people that are really impacted by severe weather can use that doesn't break the bank. And everything we've done day one to now has just been ways to sustain that product, help us pay for the services we're providing, and help us continue to make the product better.
And I'll say this, the one thing that impresses me, Mike, is the reliability of the data flow. Building the infrastructure for reliability, that's not easy to do. And yet you guys have kind of figured this out, because very, very rarely over the years have I noticed any data outages at all.
Well, that's something that we're really proud of at WDT. That was one of the big advantages to us joining WDT and becoming part of it, in addition to the support staff I mentioned. Before we came to WDT, we were answering all the emails ourselves. So that meant, checking your phone at the dinner table. And if you happen to be awake at 2 a.m. and somebody had a problem, you answer it then. Well, now we've got folks that are always in the office doing that. And we've also got a team of really smart people that understand the server side of things much better than I do. Because I'm sort of the guy that, I know phones and I know Macs and those kind of things, but I've always relied on other people to understand how to make the servers work well. We've moved a lot of that infrastructure over the last few months from our own servers and our own in a data center where we own the servers. We're moving a lot of that to Amazon Web Services, so it's cloud-based. Some of the advantages that customers get from that is that if we do need to ramp up quickly in a heavy load situation, then we've got the ability to do that now. So whereas we might have a few servers that are always online in our data center in Dallas, Amazon gives us the ability to span that up to hundreds of servers if we need to during a really big outbreak. And really, that's,
and I guess that's also redundancy, because you got one server farm, it goes down your host.
Exactly. So we felt like that the guys at WDT are really good at that, and they've done a lot for us to help make that as reliable as it is.
How much does it change, Mike, during an event, and how quickly? I mean, is it 10x or 2x the amount of data that you're pushing, and does it ramp up in minutes?
And I'd say, compared to an off day when there's not much activity in States, I'd say it could even be as much as 100. I haven't looked at this figure.
Wow.
But yes, it can ramp up pretty quickly if you've got a regional outbreak of sorts. It can ramp up pretty fast.
And how does it work? Do you call Jeff Bezos and say, "Give me more coal," or what?
That's a show title right there.
Hopefully, he's not busy, and yeah. No, there's scripts and things that you have that can automatically start to spin things up when you need to spin things up. So a lot of and we do that more now with things like our alerting services with our weather radio app and RadarScope. RadarScope are really just kind of moving into kind of the AWS world, but there are other things like our alerting products that we've had in AWS for a little longer now, and those are really important things, because you might send if we've got a metropolitan area where we have a lot of users, somewhere like Atlanta or Oklahoma City, and you put out a big thunderstorm watch or tornado watch area, we might have to send out hundreds of thousands or even a million alerts to phones in 60 seconds or so. So the ability to spin up that system quickly when you need it is important.
And I think a lot of people maybe they don't know that WDT, in addition to your product RadarScope, they do have the app called Weather Radio. How are those two apps linked, or are they linked at all? Is Weather Radio using RadarScope's code in any way?
There's a little bit of code that we share between them now, not huge amounts. We do the core feature with Weather Radio is the alerting capability. Which is really the bulk of the intelligence and the smarts and the real technological marvel of that. A lot of that's on the back end on the server side, to be able to ingest data, look at polygons, look at the locations that you've told it you want to be alerted for, and then send out literally hundreds of thousands of alerts in a few seconds, depending on where devices are located.
Talk about Weather Radio, chasing a rabbit. One of the things I'm learning that people still don't understand how warnings work. They think warnings are county based and not storm based, and they don't understand this whole polygon thing. And I'll tell somebody, "Yeah, go get that Weather Radio app. It's great." And that's the one I recommend. And they'll say, "Well, I got that app and it didn't go off. It just didn't go off." And I say, well, where were you? And of course, I'll find out that they were not in the warning. They were not even close to the warning. but the county where they are was mentioned in the text of the warning. And I bet you guys fight that problem often with customer service.
We do. It was, especially an issue in the earlier days, the first year or so that we had the app, as I recall. And we may still get some of that now, and maybe I just don't get copied on all of them. But especially in the first few months we had the app out, we get those questions all the time. And I'd say that was we probably had more inquiries about that, or you weren't alerted because you shouldn't have been, than we did, certainly much more than we did the other way, where you get something that you shouldn't have gotten.
Yeah, but that thing works just the way it ought to work. And again, I have no financial interest with Mike and these guys. I just like their products and services. But with Weather Radio, with that app, if you're in the Polygon, you get the warning, and if you're not, you don't. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys use the GPS position coming off the phone instead of cell tower stuff, right?
We do. Well, it's kind of we rely on the iOS platform. They call it location services, and I don't remember the equivalent name on Android, but it's similar. But it's a service that the operating system provides, where we can say, hey, we want to be notified when this device moves around. And so when you install the app, you have to give it permission to access to keep up with your location. And if you give it that permission, then whenever it senses that the device has moved, it will let our server know, and then our server can keep track of that, so it knows, hey, this device needs to be alerted when weather happens, when it's inside a polygon in this location. The accuracy of that, it's based in part on GPS and part on cell tower triangulation. So it's a complex system that Apple and Google use to try to give you the best determination of your location that you can without totally destroying your battery life. So it's a trade-off.
I got you. Okay, well, let's go back to RadarScope, and let's talk about the two tiers, the subscription tiers. So first off, with the original, explain how much that cost and what do you get with it?
So the original subscription we launched was in summer of 2014. So we're coming up on the second anniversary of that. It's $10 a year, $9.99, and it adds lightning data, so you get real-time or near real-time lightning strike information on the app. Screenshot you're showing there, you can see some of those. That lightning comes from Earth Network's lightning network, the WeatherBug folks. So we license that data from them. You'll see some of the lightning strikes are a little more faded out on there, so they fade out with age and they animate with the radar. So you can the lightning data animated with the radar is kind of a neat way to see where the storm is headed.
Yeah.
And kind of what's going on there. And you can also see strikes that are out ahead of the storm, or even those that are trailing behind. So it's an interesting thing to have overlaid with the radar data. The couple of other things we provide with that, what we now call the Tier 1 Pro subscription for $10 a year, we have we extend the amount of time that loop can run over. So instead of being limited to 6 frames of radar data, it can go back as much as 20. And we also have a dual pane feature that we launched, I guess it's been about a year ago. So you can open up on the iPhone and Android, you can open up 2 different map views with 2 different products. So you can see reflectivity in one view and velocity in the other one, or you can look at maybe one of the dual pole products like correlation coefficient side by side with the reflectivity. And then we just updated the Mac version of the app in February, I guess it was. And we did 4 panes there. So you've got the option to have 2 or 4 panes. Those are part of the Pro subscription primarily because if you're looking at more panes of data, then you're pulling more data from our servers. And so we felt like it was fair to ask folks to help subsidize the cost of that. People that want to see multiple panes of data and look at all those other products tend to be using it in a professional capacity, or they're much more serious about how they consume their weather data. So we felt like that was a good thing to tie to that subscription package. So that's what we now call the Tier 1 package in a nutshell, and it's been very popular. Like I say, we now, with that subscription package, that's actually most of the money we make with RadarScope, although we still do pretty well with app sales too, but it did pass app sales within the last few months.
So let's talk about Tier 2, and this is the one I think where a lot of people that listen to this show, and most people listen here, they're RadarScope users and they've had Tier 1. So now we have Tier 2 and derived contours. So just kind of explain the basics, and we'll ask you a bunch of deep personal questions here on this product because I got a bunch of them.
Okay. Well, our Tier 2 subscription package, we just launched last month. It's been out about 3 weeks, I think. It is kind of a big price jump. It's $100 if you pay for the year up front, or it's $15 a month if you want to go month to month. As far as products to view in the app, we have a couple of different contoured products. One that we're seeing on the screen here that you're showing are the estimated hail size contours. So what those do, they're based on, if you've heard of the MRMS system, the multi-radar, multi-sensor products that NSSL developed a few years ago. They're based in part on those. It's all based on mostly radar reflectivity, and they're algorithms that estimate if there is hail in that area, it estimates the hail size. So using the inspector tool that you're showing there on the Mac, you can actually mouse over those contours and see what the estimated hail size is. Now the contours are built up over time. They update every 30 minutes in the app in real time, but they also they're covering a 24-hour period. So what you're seeing at any point in the app you look at resets every morning at I think it's at 6Z. We start with a clean slate, and then that contour is built up over the course of a 24-hour day. So you know, what you're seeing there now are estimated hail swaths over that particular day you're looking at.
Right. So again, for those people that are using this product, you're in the field, storm chasing, you're in a weather office, you're at home, just curious. This is more of a trailing product, right? This is what the history of this storm that we're looking at now, back to the Southwest. So this is something that you maybe don't use for current storms, but maybe a history of what it's produced in the past?
Yes, that's exactly right. So it gives you an idea of what happened in the past, and it updates, like I say, twice an hour, but that's not nearly the frequency that your current radar or your lightning's going to update, which is, you know, with sales and all of that these days, could be every minute or two. So if you're somewhere out in the thick of the weather and you're really looking to make an immediate, how do I react to this decision, then that's really not what hail contours are for. Hail contours are for really more for post-event analysis. You can do that. I mean, it could be post-event 30 minutes after the fact, which isn't very long, but it could also be post-event, 24 hours back. And because they're kind of a post-event analysis product, they were a good thing to combine with another feature of the Tier 2 subscription, which is our 30-day archive. And that takes all of the Level 3 and Super Res radar products. And we're hosting all of those in the cloud with AWS. And so if you're a Tier 2 subscriber, you can click on the timestamp up there in the top right corner. You'll see there's a little, it's hard to see in the screenshot here, but there's a little arrow up there next to it. You can click on that, pull up a 30-day calendar, and go back and view any radar data anytime over the last 30 days. And the hail contours will update with that as well.
Yeah, let me, I'll kind of put mine back on here full screen. But yeah, if you click the little arrow by the clock, and again, this is the Mac version, not the phone version here, but you can go back and again, goodness, that is such a useful tool, because how many times do we get emails from people? I'd like to know what time that storm passed over my house back on April 27th, and so right away, it's very helpful for us, and I think that's fantastic. So that's another addition. So the next product we want to talk about here is the shear product. So I'm going to pull that up here, and this will not. These are hailers out here. You're not going to see a lot of that. There's a little swath down in here. So explain that product, Mike.
So this is a product. I guess the technical term for it is an azimuthal shear. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's an interesting word. But what we're looking at here is based on Doppler velocity, and we're looking for places where you've got a high wind shear as detected by the radar. So that might be something you'd see with a velocity couplet in a radar signature, when you've got winds moving in opposite directions to each other, significantly different speed, different direction of winds. That kind of wind shear, I mean, you've got to keep in mind, you're not really seeing. We refer to them as tornado tracks. We refer to them as a lot of things. It's that kind of wind shear when you're looking at the radar signature aloft is an indication of rotation in the storm. It's a good indicator that you might see some tornadic activity. It's not saying, hey, there is a tornado here and here's where it's going. But it certainly can help you see areas of instability in the atmosphere, and it can help you see areas of where there's rotation and shear that could certainly be associated with and produce that pickup.
And again, I'm seeing, Mike, as I mouse over this, weak, moderate, significant. What are all the categories that you might see in this product?
I believe there are 3 levels there, and
so those are the 3 that you got there:
yeah,
weak, moderate,
those are
and
the 3 that we have, and they're based on a numerical value that's I'd have to go read my notes before I could explain it to you very well. It's a measurement of if any of you guys can remember what the actual shear products, I don't know what the units are, but there's some funky units like 1 over distance or something, or 1 over time, or some interesting thing that they derive out to be. But
it's usually meters squared per second over seconds squared,
something like that. Yeah. So the idea here is just you're seeing a very highly significant or a weak signature associated with that shear. So the higher level contours, you're seeing a stronger shear signal, shear pattern from that velocity. And you'll see the shear ones are interesting to look at, because you will see times when you see nice long tracks from those that really look like they're associated with tornadic activity or some storm that had rotation in it that moved over a long stretch of area. And you'll see other times when the atmosphere is really unstable, and you'll just see lots of little things pop up all over the place. So it's an interesting product to look at, and kind of get a feel for what the atmosphere is doing and how it's behaving.
And again, those 2 products are both radar derived, right? Strictly off radar data.
I believe the hail products are primarily reflectivity based, and of course the shear is primarily velocity derived product.
So I'm trying to see, what was the date of that Canton, Texas tornado?
That's actually a pretty good one to look at if we can find it.
I was about to say, because what I was going to pull, Kevin's out there. Rick, one of you guys, it was in late April, and I thought that might be fun to look at that one.
28th or 29th.
So if I go to the Fort Worth NexRad and go back 1 month, or I can just do it right here, I guess. Let's see, 04. And what was the date again? 29th, you think?
The article in the paper was on the 29th at 7:45, so I'm assuming that means it was on the 28th.
I'm thinking the 28th.
Was the 28th a Saturday?
Let me try this one more time here. 28th. Let's see if that'll work.
Yeah, I think it was Friday evening.
Yeah.
And it might help to choose the right radar too.
Saturday evening, so it would be the 29th according to this article.
Okay, so the product I'm looking at here. Like if I click on live, that's obviously the most current radar. And if I click on select, that would be the 29th at 9:08. So let's click on select, and there we go. There you go, right there.
Yeah, there you
go. This is Van Zant County, and again, I'm not that interested in the radar data. I wanted to see the shear products, and this tornado came through Van Zant County in Canton, Texas. Canton is along Interstate 20, which is east of Dallas, and again, that is a look at the specific shear product coming off this new Tier 2, and you can see that there was some just nasty rotation coming through Van Zant County. And again, this is a great way of looking back, and I'll give you a pretty quick idea where you're going to see some pretty serious damage in there. That verifies very well, Mike. It's a good looking product.
Yeah, I think that's a particularly interesting one to look at because you can see that how the contours kind of come up, moving from southwest to northeast, and then there's a split in the storm, and it kind of goes off in a couple of different directions. And you can actually, as I recall, you can actually see that in the radar data at the time that the radar came through, which is kind of interesting to watch because it kind of forks off and goes in a couple of different directions.
Yeah, there appears to be 4 levels because there's a weak, moderate, significant, and then severe.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, you're right. In this one, it says severe. And
yeah.
By the way, for those watching, I think this thing looks like E.T. There's your two eyes.
Good Lord.
That's the other thing, Mike. You put this telestration tool on this thing, and that's fantastic. Whose idea was that? Your idea to put that on there a long time ago?
Yeah, we watched folks like you using the product and taking screenshots on their phone, and then opening it up in some other app and drawing on it, and opening it up in a third app to post it to Twitter. And we wanted to make that easy to do. So we thought, well, if you're in a severe weather situation and you're trying to communicate to people, you should be able to do that in one app instead of three. So yeah, that's where that was kind of the initiation of that idea, was watching what customers were doing and trying to find a way to make that easier.
And again, people that have watched us, Brian, they know that I tend to prefer to use RadarScope because of the clarity, especially in some of the dual polarization products. These big vendors, and again, I'm not knocking them, but it's where we, we're not in Boston, we're not in San Francisco, we're not in, Seattle. We need serious radar products that are high resolution, that are timely, and the dual polarization stuff. I use it on the air all the time, and that's another interesting thing, Mike, is that for those of us that do happen to be in television, if you airplay, and this is true for anybody's got an Apple TV, you airplay this thing over, and it pretty much presents itself in the standard television resolution and 1080p, and it goes straight to the switcher, and it looks really good on television.
Yeah, and that we did do a little work on that through the AirPlay feature that Apple has, and that again was to some extent inspired by watching you in April 2011, I guess, and watching other people use the app and trying to figure out ways we could make it better. The nice thing about that feature is that you can have it on your iPad or your phone, and then use AirPlay to get it over to the Apple TV device, and then out into whatever video switching system you've got for on-air use. On the phone or on the iPad, it will appear letterboxed to the aspect ratio of the TV. So even though you've got a full screen view on the phone, that's maybe it's a portrait, not a landscape mode, or it's not the same aspect ratio as what you're broadcasting, you can see letterboxed. You can tell what your viewers are going to be able to see right there on the phone, and you can manipulate it on the phone. So you can do your zooming and product selection and panning throughout the image, all right there on your iOS device.
And Mike, there's a distinct advantage, since I'm the guy in the field and he's the guy in the office. We're both looking at the same picture off the same software. It's very helpful.
Well, thank you, and I do think that's helpful. That was certainly one of the things that we were thinking of, even if you go back to the 90s when I was at OU, and the goal we were working on then was to get radar data into the hands of emergency managers, primarily in small Oklahoma towns. And what we were able to do there was give them a view that was very similar to what the WFO had. So if they're communicating with their WFO, they're looking at the same data, they're seeing it with the same color palette, and they're able to see. So, it's a lot easier to communicate about an image if you're both looking at the same one. And yes. I think the great thing about smartphones is that it extended that capability to the spotter in the field. So now the emergency manager in his office is communicating with his spotters, and they're both looking at the same image.
Yeah.
I also think that crosses over to television too, because you can have the same image on TV that your viewers have at home on their phone. So I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Well, it worked out well in the most recent severe weather episode, because we had a bow echo, and James was talking about the apex of the bow, and I knew exactly where he was talking about, which fortunately happened to be where I was, so it worked out very well. But it really is a great advantage to have that similar feature, because I'm hearing him and he's hearing me, but we're not looking at the same screen at the same time. But since I've got it right there in the chaser and he's got it right there in the studio, we're basically on the same page from the get-go, and that's always good. Yeah,
that's great to hear. So we're glad to know that it's working that way for you guys, and that it's making your job easier. Because that's
well, and I've said to you a number of times in emails too, because I use RadarScope extensively in on-site support, and man, it's It's a tool. I just wonder where I was, what I used back 10 years ago before I had it. It's just such a wonderful, wonderful tool to be able to just zoom in and talk to the officials who are making decisions and show them exactly where things are and where things are happening. It's just superb. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's it's always nice to hear feedback, positive or negative, but we certainly enjoy the positive more.
Well, and I have to say, I think you can't make it better, and you always manage to make it better. So
we try, and that, one of the goals with the Tier 2 subscription, and it's caught some people off guard because it's quite a bit higher price point. One of the reasons it's a higher price point is the costs are higher. We wanted to do something where we started to see, what can we do with archived data where we get back after the fact, where you're not just using RadarScope for right now, you're using it to go back and look at something yesterday or a little bit farther. We even got some feedback, and some of the impetus for that request came from folks in WFOs. They said, well, I've got an iPad and I'm going out to do the storm survey, which could be 2 weeks after the event. It would be really nice if I could see this storm on the iPad while I'm in the field looking at the damage. And so, going back 30 days, we felt like that was kind of we needed to be able to go back 30 days because that gives you plenty of buffer, plenty of room to go back and look at things after they happen. But there's certain costs. We pay Amazon to upload that data to their servers. We pay to keep that data on their servers, and we pay every time somebody loads that data from their servers.
Wow.
So, a lot of this, and with the contours too, because they go back in time. So a lot of the price point really came about from trying to figure out what's the minimum amount, how far back in time do we need to go for it to be useful at all? What's kind of the minimum viable time frame there? And then what are the costs associated with that? How many people do we think we can get that would be interested in that? Because we know it's a smaller group of users than the people who pay $10.
Yes.
So just trying to find the right balance for all that, and we want it to be, my goal with anything we do in RadarScope is that it pays for itself.
Yes.
We don't want to do anything that's not going to be sustainable that we then have to say, we have to turn this off because we put off more than we could choose. So finding that right balance has been an interesting challenge because we knew going in that it would be a significantly higher price point than what we've done in the past. But we also knew it's going to be something that's a must-have maybe for a smaller percentage of customers. Yeah. But there's an advantage to being able to do it with the same product. There's an advantage not to having to go somewhere else and download data and get it in the right directory and name it the right thing and do all that to go back and look at something that happened a month ago.
Well, and one of the things that's happening here is I'm coming up on one of the longer events that I support, which is the Southeastern Conference baseball tournament, which is a week-long schedule. So it's going to be interesting to let them know that I now will have the capability, if they want to look at something that happened yesterday, we can look at it right there. So
yeah, I think there's, I hope that it will prove to be worth it for the folks that have a use for it. And part of that, to speak a little more to that, there's one feature of that Tier 2 that we haven't talked about yet. Because we're coming in at quite a bit higher price point, we felt like we wanted to do something to help make that make sense for more people. So the way the App Store systems work, and we let Apple and Google do all the billing and handle all the credit cards and take the money, and then they take their 30% and give us the rest. And we do that with the subscriptions as well. But one of the side effects of that is we didn't have a mechanism to handle cross-platform subscriptions. So if you had an iPhone and you had a Mac, or maybe you had an Android tablet too, then you might end up paying for your RadarScope Pro subscription on your iPhone, $10, again on your Mac for $10, and again on maybe an Android device for another $10. Now, to think about that a little bit, we took that into account when we designed those subscriptions. There are subscriptions you can get from other places for Gibson Ridge software and stuff like that that are great value for the money, but they're a lot more than $10 a year. And one of the reasons is they have to have an account management system. They have to have passwords. They have to let you change your password when you forget it. And we needed to do all of those things too if we were going to go cross-platform. So with the original Tier 1, we decided to price it at a really low price of $10 because we knew that folks that did need to get it on more than one platform could then afford it. You don't have to pay the extra, on the Mac or on Android if you only use it on your phone. Right. But with this tier, we felt like, if we're going to come in at that price point, we do need to have a solution for that. So one of the things you get with Tier 2 you can optionally register that subscription, create an account. It's in the settings on the app under RadarScope in the account section. You can register your account, log in on the device you purchased it from. Then you can go to say you buy it on your iPhone, then you can go over to your Android phone or your Mac and log in and use the same subscription. You don't have to pay again. That, if you have all 3 devices, that's worth $30 to you a year right there. Out of the 100. So we felt like that was a nice way to help make that a little more affordable for the people.
And thank you, because I qualify in that category.
Well, I know you've got iOS and Mac, and believe it or not, we have a fair number of people that have the combination I see sometimes will be an iPhone, a Mac, and an Android tablet or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's a way to do that. We started out with a different type of subscription on the Apple platform. It was their non-renewing subscription, so it was every year you had to remember to go buy it again. And the main reason we started with that is Apple wouldn't let us use the auto-renewing kind. They were only letting people use that for magazine subscriptions and the New York Times and stuff like that. Well, last July, they said, well, we're going to let everybody do that. So we moved to that, and there's one advantage is you don't have to remember to renew. But the real advantage for us is if you buy it on one iOS device, it automatically syncs that receipt over to all your other iOS devices on your same App Store account. And so we don't have to try to figure out how to sync that for you. So, with the auto-renewing subscriptions, that's been an advantage there. And then the ability, with Tier 2, we had the ability to track those across platforms so that you can pay on one device and use them everywhere else. I think what we're really trying to do is make a system that's easier for everybody to use. We see a lot fewer tech support incidents with questions about, hey, I got it on my phone, how do I get it on my iPad with the auto-renewing subs? And we're seeing more. We knew we'd have more technical support, getting people used to the Tier 2 with the accounts and creating all that. It's another reason why this whole system costs a little more, because we're keeping that database and managing all of that for you too, and helping people when they need help.
Well, I sure like it. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Hey, Mike, I go out and do a lot of talks out in public, and people are always asking, what do you have on your phone? And I say, well, I can't endorse anything, but here's what I have on my phone. And so I appreciate the app and all the work that you guys have done with it. A couple of questions that I get out there. Number one, and Mike being in the Oklahoma City area, you may have, I don't know, on television, all of a sudden there's questions about, how long does it take your radar to update? And that's a question I get all the time, is how long, when I'm looking at a radar image on RadarScope, how long does it take me to get that image? And do I have to wait for the entire WSR 88D volume scan to complete before I get an image, or am I getting them as the images roll in?
We receive that data as it rolls in, either through our level 2 feed, which actually comes through OU's IRAD system, I believe, is where we get that. Or, the level 3 products certainly come out. So your lower tilts, like reflectivity and velocity, those base products that don't have extra computation involved and extra algorithms being run on them, come out as they go. If the radar's in what they call sales or mesosales mode, they've got acronyms for that. You probably can explain that better than I can, but with those upgrades to NextRad over the last couple of years, the radars actually they come back and do subsequent scans at that lower tilt more often. So we don't even have to wait for the whole volume scan to finish before we come back to that first tilt, which is where most of the time you're going to find the useful information.
Right. So you are getting that.
Absolutely.
So you are getting the mesosales, like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in case, and I wrote down. You asked about the acronyms. I wrote down the acronyms because there's no way in heck I would ever know these. Supplemental Adaptive Intra-Volume Low-Level Scan Multi-Elevation Scan Options. So what that means is...
Oh, brother.
Wow. Holy mackerel.
That means,
will there be a test on this later?
Yeah, there might be. That means you're getting, if you're in Mesosales 3, and we'll always put that in our chat room, we try to, that means you're getting a new low-level scan, a new low-level picture every 75 to 90 seconds. So that's incredibly fast when you think about, it used to take 5, 6, 7 minutes for that whole scan to come in. So that's cool. I thought I knew the answer to those, but I wanted to be sure because I do get that question a lot.
RadarScope looks at the volume coverage pattern, the VCP that the radar's in, so it has an idea based on that of how often the products are going to update. So, and the reason we do that, I mean, we could just hit the server every 10 seconds and say, hey, do you have something? Do you have something? But you know, one of the original design goals for this thing was preserve as much battery life as possible. You know, think about the storm spotter on a rural road with a slow connection, and maybe, you know, maybe that phone's what they've got, and you don't want to use their battery up when you don't have to. Well, turning the cellular modem on is one of the things that eats battery faster than anything. So we look at the VCP, and we know if you're in clear air mode, that product's not going to update for several minutes. There's no point in asking the server for another product if that product is several minutes old, so we don't.
Yeah.
But if you're in preset mode, then we hit it. You know, we know we need to start hitting after a few minutes. And if you're in sales, then we know it needs to be even faster than that. And I think there's, you know, that's always been a good system for RadarScope to do, where we're polling for data like that. But we've got some ability to do it intelligently, so we're not polling when we know it's not going to be there. We don't start polling to check for an update until we know that there's a good chance that it's there, which helps conserve battery. I think with sales and meso sales, you're talking about 75-second updates. I think there's probably things we can do to make it better. We've got a hint of that now with what we're doing with Allison House subscribers, that their subscription plan. They've got something called a server sent event that will actually notify the clients that are open when a radar product's updated, so they don't have to do polling. So that's something we'd like to bring, you know, product wide eventually, or at least to our pro subscribers at some point. Some ability to make that even faster than it is now. If you compare RadarScope to the average weather app on the phone, the average weather app on the phone is taking all the radars and stitching them together and making a composite image. And even if the radars are updating fast, it probably takes 5 or 10 minutes to piece that together. So they just don't tend to update nearly as often. And, you know, the disadvantage there is you may have an updated scan from this radar that you're looking at, but you don't have it for the one on the, you know, other side of the state. Well, if you're here in the middle of, you know, the Twin Lakes coverage area, you don't care. You want Twin Lakes to update when it's got new data. So that's why RadarScope's single site, and that's why we try to update it as efficiently as we can, but still get it fast.
Hey, Mike, where do you go from here? What's next on the horizon for RadarScope?
Well, a lot of things we want to do. We have plans, some short-term plans for some new radar products and things that are going to cross over all of the tiers of the app. So we've got some improvements that we're working on now for the base app that you don't need a subscription for. We've got some little bit extra that you'll get if you're a tier 1 subscriber, and then we've got plans also for the tier 2 subscribers to try to make that more valuable. There's other kinds of contoured products that we can put in at the tier 2 level. One of the things I would like to consider doing with tier 2 over time, as the subscriber base builds up and we get an idea of how many people and how much, you know, what the subscriber revenue is going to be from that, I'd like to see it taking that archive farther back in time. You know, is a 60-day worth, is a 90-day of value to people. I think it would be great if you just had radar events at your fingertips. You could say, you know, I really want to see April 2011. I really want to see May 3rd, 99. And I don't want to have to go dig through the archives at NCDC and deal with, you know, all the things I'd have to deal with to go find that and pull it up. So I would like to see.
That's a whole. Oh.
So,
I was griping. I was about the NCDC. Well, I'll go off from that on another show.
Yeah. Well, they've got, you know, there are great ways to go out and get that archive data. I guess what we're saying is I think RadarScope's always been about kind of that last mile of connectivity, or that last little bit that takes this amazing service that you know, the Weather Service and NOAA have built for us, and kind of bridges that last little gap to get it out into the hands of more people and make it easier and more accessible for more people. So finding ways to keep doing that, doing it well, is certainly things we'd like to do. We've got a gazillion other ideas for things we want to do in the app, and if I talk about all of them, people are going to start asking me when they're going to ship. So.
Yeah, you'll have to break our legs. And people occasionally will ask about, do you plan to be a competitive program or piece of software for this? This is Mike Gibson's Gibson Ridge product. And he's got, I think model data, and I do not use that software. It's great. I know Mike. I consider Mike a friend. The software is marvelous. I don't use it, but a lot of people do. The question is, do you plan on steering RadarScope toward a more full-featured suite of products like Mike Gibson has?
I think that's certainly an obvious direction for it to go. There's two ways in which we don't directly compete. He focuses on the Windows platform, and we're on iOS, Mac, and Android. So, there's those differences. And he has, with GR Analyst and GR Earth and some of those products, gone beyond, kind of radar data being the core and to start to look at model data and all of that. Our goal is to provide a great product and a great solution for customers that need to look at weather data that's impacting them, ideally in real time, but also, we're expanding kind of to a few more things after the fact. I think there's still a lot of room to improve that on mobile devices. The PC is in some ways becoming a legacy platform, or it's certainly becoming a platform that fewer people use. I think Steve Jobs said that, PCs are like trucks and most people need a car. Smartphones and tablets, are the cars to PCs, trucks. So I think there's still tons of room for things besides radar data, room for improvement for consuming weather information on mobile devices. I think we do a good job with alerting. I think RadarScope does a real good job with real-time radar products. There's a lot of other things out there that I think people would like to do on mobile devices as well as we're doing radar. So there's certainly a lot of room to go there. Probably more things than we can afford to do all at once. And so we look at a couple of things when we decide what are we going to try to do next. We look at what are customers talking about, what do we feel like they're using and would benefit from having, certain types of data or ways of using the product in the field. And then we also look at what are the devices capable of these days. There are things we're doing in RadarScope today that we couldn't have done on the original iPhone with the level of efficiency that we needed to do it on the original iPhone, either from memory usage or the speed at which you can decode the data and display it or something like that. So we try to look at both of those things and find the right balance. What's the obvious next step? What's the next thing we can do that when we do it will be a great product?
And that's the cool thing about RadarScope. You push out frequent updates for bug fixes and little feature requests and things like that. And so it's not an app that just sits still. You guys are always moving forward. Well, you've been on here for over an hour, Mike. You've been way too kind. So RadarScope, if people want to buy it, what's the easiest way to do? Just go to the App Store, right?
Go to the App Store on your iPhone or Mac. Go to Google Play on Android. It's a $9.99, $10 to download the app. Use the app and you like it and you think the subscription features will benefit you, you can pay another $10 a year or $15 or $100, $15 a month, $100 a year to go all the way up to tier 2. We've got lots of good things planned for all three of those levels. Whatever level you're paying for and using the app at, we've got more improvements coming over the next at least the next year and hopefully a lot more years to come. I hope we're still doing this in 10 years and adding great new things that people find useful.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm a fanboy, and in the Weather Radio app, we'll talk about that some other time. But I think that's just one of the greatest warning apps on the market. My wife has it, our two boys have it, I have it, and that works very well too. So, congratulations and thanks to you, Mike, on behalf of the entire Weather Enterprise for providing this remarkable app. You tell me one day, and I'm old as dirt like Brian. But you would tell me one day I would have all this on this phone where I could just look at this at any time. It's stunning. And we should mention, you got the whole suite of products on here. You got the dual pole products too, which we hadn't even talked about tonight, but it's unbelievable. I mean, I never thought I would have something like this in my hands. So you guys did just done a great job.
Well, on behalf of everybody at WDT that works on RadarScope and makes it great, thanks for that. We do like to hear that. Glad to know we're making something that you guys can use and it helps keep people safe. So.
Awesome. And again, if they want to follow you guys on social media, there is a RadarScope Twitter account. I do believe it's.
Yep. On Twitter, we're RadarScope. And on Facebook, we have a RadarScope product page. We also have a RadarScope users group where people post screenshots and ask questions and all of that. We've got a support email account that's accessible from inside the app. So you just go to settings and help and support, and shoot us an email. We've got folks there, like I say, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The one thing people remark the first time they encounter our support is how quickly we respond, and what a good job we do. So.
Yeah, and you guys really monitor that users group. Y'all are quick on the trigger and also on Twitter and everything else. So it's fantastic. So, Mike, we owe you one for coming on the show tonight. Thanks a lot. And again, thanks for all your great work.
Well, thank you. It was nice to be back. I enjoyed it. Thanks a bunch.
Okay, get you a good nap. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's take a quick break here for WeatherBrains 101. Tony Rice in the Astronomy Report. We'll come back with Aubrey's email segment, Peaks of the Week, and much. Did I say Peaks of the Week? Picks of the week, and much more as WeatherBrains.
We can pick of the week, too. I mean, we can pick at the week.
Yeah, there you go. We'll do all that coming up as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
As we noted here in a recent 101 segment, the 2017 hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin is fast approaching. One of the changes coming with the 2017 hurricane season is the operational issuance of storm surge watches and warnings to highlight areas along the Gulf and Atlantic coasts of the continental United States that have a significant risk of life-threatening inundation from a tropical cyclone, a subtropical cyclone, a post-tropical cyclone, or, pending final NWS approval, a potential tropical cyclone. Storm surge is often the greatest threat to life and property from a tropical cyclone, and it doesn't always occur at the same times or locations as a storm's hazardous winds. While in most cases, coastal residents can remain in their homes or in a secure structure nearby and be safe from a tropical cyclone's winds, evacuations are generally needed to keep people safe from storm surge. Separate warnings for these two hazards will save lives by better identifying the specific tropical cyclone hazards communities face and by enhancing the public response to instructions from local officials. The storm surge watch warning areas are determined by a collaborative process between the National Hurricane Center and local NWS weather forecast offices. The primary objective guidance will be P-Surge, an ensemble-based probabilistic system driven by the SLOSH model, the latest NHC official tropical cyclone forecast, and the typical historical errors associated with NHC forecasts. Forecaster confidence, continuity from advisory to advisory, and other subjective factors will also help determine the areas placed under a watch or warning. In addition to graphics, the watch and warning areas will be included in hurricane local statements issued by National Weather Service forecast offices and in the NHC public advisory. A storm surge watch means there is the possibility of life-threatening inundation from rising water moving inland from the shoreline somewhere within the specified area, generally within 48 hours, in association with an ongoing or potential tropical cyclone, subtropical cyclone, or a post-tropical cyclone. A storm surge warning means there is danger of life-threatening inundation from rising water moving inland from the shoreline somewhere within the specified area, generally within 36 hours, in association with an ongoing or potential tropical cyclone, a subtropical cyclone, or a post-tropical cyclone. If you have a question about the weather, you can drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
If you named a star for your biggest fan this Mother's Day, enjoy that $40 certificate, and by all means take Mom outside on the next clear night and look for her star. But don't expect to find it in any official star catalogs. Star naming is controlled by the International Astronomical Union, the worldwide professional organization for astronomers. And they take naming very seriously. They also pay no attention to these retail naming services. While some bright stars have names stemming from Arabic, Greek, or Latin, most have alphanumeric designations like HR 7001. Now, asteroids and comets, they receive a sequential number from the Minor Planet Center. That's their permanent designation. But discoverers also have the option of submitting an additional name for approval. Only about 6% of the nearly 250,000 objects in that database have names. Rules are, names must be fewer than 16 characters, preferably one word. They must be pronounceable, and nothing similar to an existing name. Commercial names and naming an asteroid after your pet are discouraged. Military or political leaders are okay, but you've got to wait 100 years after their death. This has led to some interesting names. Asteroid 9007, of course, was designated James Bond. Asteroid 26858 was named for the lifelong amateur astronomer and all-around good neighbor Mr. Rogers. Star Trek is very well represented, with 9777 Enterprise, 9864 Nimoy, 7307 Takei, and 68410 Nickel. Most recently, 391 257 Will Wheaton, though there's still none named for Shatner. Minor body discoverers often honor their favorite musicians, including 3834 Zappa Frank, 22521 ZZ Top, 17473 Freddie Mercury honored the musician's 70th birthday, 19383 Rolling Stones, and the list goes on. Asteroid 100,000 Peters makes its closest approach to Earth, a mere 208 million miles away. This asteroid is named not for our own Professor Peters, but for Christian Heinrich Friedrich Peters, a German-American astronomer known as a prolific discoverer of asteroids. Similarly, main-belt asteroid 941 Murray hasn't made a close approach since 1961, and will next see comet 48P Johnson in 2045, when it passes 50 million miles from Jupiter. Main-belt asteroid 3351 Smith will next approach Jupiter in 2052. Asteroids Span, Urbanowitz, Scala, and Celli await discovery. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
Well, I've got a funny feeling that Aubrey might have a little email, so let's dig into the old inbox.
We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Aubrey, take it away.
I'm here.
Unmute.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am here. All right. Starting with the first one from Chris White, our friend down just to the south in Roanoke. Per the interest expressed in weather photography, I'd recommend Trevor White. He was on 549. He was a student at Virginia Tech, and he's now working with, I can't remember names. Gosh, something's happened with my memory. Dr. Werman. Out in Colorado. Anyways, Trevor's photography expertise and equipment is awesome to behold. So thanks, Chris, for that. Steve, the Jasmine Bauer. I just retweeted this image. He said cameras captured lightning during a Wichita storm by Stan Finger. Every 5 minutes, the camera that's installed at the Wichita branch of the NWS takes a random photo of the sky. And on last Thursday, it caught lightning in a bottle, or the lightning bolt from the sky. It struck just before 6. The meteorologist there said they thought they took a direct hit from the tower, but there was too much time between the strike and the thunder. And the bolt actually knocked out electricity at the Weather Service briefly. The lightning hit on a stormy day that brought about 3/4 of an inch of rain. So I retweeted that picture if you want to see that at WHSVOBS on Twitter. Rob, James, this one is for you. Rob says, James, today I caught my wife's nephew at work looking at one of the several paper maps they still have, the rare paper maps they still have in their house. He was successful. He is just 25 years old. Just wanted to let you know there is hope. And his Aries group is planning a pin the tail on the donkey exercise at the local emergency expo. We plan to target the youngsters in hopes that they will train their parents. Just wanted to know not all is lost.
That makes me happy.
Encouraging, excellent. Very much so. LVS says, after listening to one of the recent shows with lightning photography, I came up with a recommendation. I recently attended a local weather fest put on by the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. Awesome presentation given by Jeremy Bauer, who owns photography, specializes in lightning. He's in Lincoln. Check out his photos on Facebook. I think he would be a good candidate, so we'll have to check him out on Facebook. It's JRB Storm Photography. Might be a good pick for next week. Robert Keel suggested to have Lacey Swope, meteorologist for KWTV in Oklahoma City, who just transferred from Tulsa. And Bill said that she is booked for next week. So great suggestion. And let's see, this one was forwarded by someone who follows me on Twitter. I forget his name right now. Brendan Richardson is a longtime WeatherBrains listener. There's never a dull moment on your podcast. My question is related to the challenges around breaking into the atmospheric science field. What advice would you give to early career professionals who have fundamental education for atmospheric science, but have to first find work outside of their discipline. How could they best communicate their eagerness to want to work without overly touting their interest in the field? I'm officially asking the WeatherBrains crew because I believe other early career professionals who also listen to your podcast have faced similar circumstances. So I'll go first since I never intended to be a meteorologist. I was a bartender for 12 years, traveled a lot, and I found myself involved in meteorology. So it all became down to really networking. And I found a chief meteorologist in the town I was living in, one who brought me in, explained things, took a chance on me, and he had to fight for me to get an internship at that TV station, and he did. And I really think it's who you make some contacts with, and you need someone to really kind of just take a chance on you sometimes. So you really have to just be good at networking, and maybe even go to some of the conferences to really kind of find your way around. Others?
Yeah, I think that's a great response, Aubrey, because Kevin, who's not here, when I first met him, he was Kevin Collins working afternoon drive on Magic 96 FM. We play all hits all the time. He was a radio guy, but he loved weather. And he started hanging out with me at the TV station, and same deal. We got him an intern slot, and he was an official intern, and that started him on the career path he's on today. So I agree. Networking is what it's all about. You got to make some connections.
Absolutely. And I believe that is the last one I have. Oh, I'll read this again from Evan Deese. Hello, WeatherBrains. Love the show. Love the weather. Mainly watch for the pre-show. You should totally make an episode or series where it's just rants,
yes,
boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and outrageous things. So
yes. So, and one came in tonight, I think during the show, and I guess we probably ought to mention this.
I don't. Did I get it?
This was from Daniel Lucas. I don't know if you.
Oh, yes.
This was nearly 4 months into his administration. President Trump has yet to name the next leader of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, but several individuals in the weather community say Barry Myers, chief executive of AccuWeather, I wish Kevin was here, is the leading candidate. Myers, who holds business and law degrees, has served as AccuWeather as something. So, Rick, what say you? Rick probably can't say a word. Yeah. For those that are not watching, he is going. His hands are going. His mouth is moving, but he has stayed muted. So that speaks volumes. So, Brian, you're free to talk. What say you? You're a longtime Weather Service guy.
You know, I have a great deal of respect for AccuWeather and all that, but I just have a feeling that if he gets in, he's just going to dismantle the Weather Service. I don't know.
So does this guy have any meteorology experience at all?
Well, he's been running the or assisting in running the company.
That doesn't mean anything. Does he have any experience?
That's right. You didn't answer her question.
I know. I'm trying to dance around it.
It's the same thing. I was going to say it's the same thing with, higher ups and CEOs at Chili's when I worked there. Bring them down to help wait a table and come in when the restaurant is, you're 8 deep at the bar and you got a 3-hour wait. Tell me how you like that to do all your, regulations and checklists and things that you want me to do and have to put the straw on the same side or the knife at this position. Yeah, come on down on a Saturday night in a busy Florida town. Let me tell you what that's all about.
Yeah,
we need to get this guy on the show. We need to get Barry Myers on this show. So we'll put Bill on that. Bill Murray's our guest booking officer. So I tell you what, I'm looking at the clock up here. We had such a good time with Mike. We're a little behind here. So let's.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
Boom. So we're doing this show on May 15th, 2017, and I guess, Rick, you got the action out there in your neck of the woods for a while.
Am I unmuted now? I don't know what was wrong earlier. Microphone.
I know the tricks you play there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a busy week. I mean, it's the middle of May, and anything can happen. So we've got storms on this Monday evening out in the Panhandle, and we're expecting busy days in our county warning area Tuesday and early Wednesday morning, and then again Thursday into Friday, maybe even into Saturday with some flooding. So it's going to be a long few days for lots of us here in the Southern Plains.
'Tis the season. How many storm chasers you think are out there today or tomorrow, Rick? How many are going to be there tomorrow?
Oh my gosh, there's hundreds out there today in the Northeast Texas Panhandle with just a marginal setup and not a lot going on, and it'll only be higher tomorrow and Thursday. If we end up with an enhanced risk or something higher than that, potentially all bets are off. So it's too many to count.
Yep, that they converge in Oklahoma in May and early June, it seems like every year, which they should. But we've got snow in parts of the western mountain states. And Aubrey, you'll be heating up. Will you see 90, you think, this week?
Yeah, we've got 90 forecast for Wednesday, Thursday, and 89 for Friday. Thursday would be the day that we could possibly tie or break a record. The record is 93, our forecast is 91. So it's definitely going to heat up and actually drop off a little bit for the weekend, which is some good news. And again, showers, thunderstorm chances. It's, I said tonight, it's this time of the year where you just have to, it's, not going to be a washout, but just be prepared for a storm.
Oh, yeah. For 3 months, we say the same thing every day down here. Hot, humid, the chance of an afternoon thunderstorm.
Although we don't get the humidity quite so bad. It's beautiful up here. We really won't start to get humid until like Thursday night, Friday. But that's the one thing about the Blue Ridge Mountains is they really do block a lot of that humidity, noticeable humidity.
Awesome. Well, let's do picks of the week really quick here because we got to hustle up. Brian, what's your pick?
My pick is actually, it's related to the drought out in the western states in California. I ran across on the Boston Globe, which I just love their photo essays, but it's before and after. The drought is the before, and then currently how much better it is. And I want to say, James, I'm a victim of the drought. I lost 2 large trees in my front yard. My wife and I are in mourning. We had them taken down this morning. So,
wow. Now we're ending the show on a sad note. Wow.
Yep.
All right, Aubrey, what's your pick? What you got?
My pick is a really cool article from, let me pull it up. It is History Meets Technology in Shipwreck Alley in the Great Lakes. The research team actually hopes to do more recovery of some of these shipwrecks. There's thought to be over possibly thousands of them, or at least hundreds of them in that area. So they're hoping to discover more this summer.
Awesome. Rick Smith, what you got for us this week?
Mine is a smorgasbord of severe thunderstorm forecasting goodness. This is a video lecture series with Rich Thompson and Ariel Cohen from the Storm Prediction Center. It's a whole graduate level course that they taught at OU, and they've got all the lectures recorded, hours and hours and hours of geeky severe weather forecasting goodness on that link.
Awesome. And that is a treasure trove. I've started poking around that stuff. That is just awesome. Mine is a link to the Hurricane Center and some of the adjustments they made to their products and services this year. And Kevin is gone for the moment, but we'll post his pick of the week up on the website, weatherbrains.com. But you know what? We got to go. I got to go do some television. So thanks for listening. WeatherBrains is typically done every Monday night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. You can listen or watch live. Most people do that at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. We know that most of you listen, so thank you. If you want to get in touch with us, our email address is email@weatherbrains.com. And all of our social media accounts are there. The show notes are there. The picks of the week are there. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. God bless. Thanks, everybody. I got to run. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.